Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham and such. I have just the weekly misery report or something. The just like to remind you that you're on Planet Meat Grinder and it's really horrible out there, and why are you supporting it? Why are you subsidizing the machine? It's just so bad. But anyway, that you even have to, in hindsight, I'm just saying, just once you're free from the traditionalist views of things, just all because it's just so obvious, and you're just like, wow, you know, people just live such fake and phony lives, and driven by just such trivial and superficial nonsense. Creepy. And the problem is trying to explain that to them when they have a, kind of almost insane truther mentality that they can't possibly be confused or be misunderstanding reality, misinterpreting it. And they're basically talking like schizophrenic loonies, not to insult schizophrenic loonies, but, we just sort of, it's one of the liabilities of having such a condition is you'll be used as an example of, what a mess you can get yourself into in terms of your own delusions owning you. So anyway, I just see that in people. Just completely irrational. I've run into a lot in the physics conversations, but somebody will seem like they're a rational human being. They'll be able to interact in a few ways that are normal. And, all of a sudden they pull out their dick and start pissing on a cat or something. You're like, what the fuck is that about, buddy? You're just saying, so it's like these people denying global warming, or, the whole 9/11 conspiracy types, or the Fed did it, or whatever. People with these unrealistic and just silly notions of reality. And then there's religion, which is just so overtly silly. And, that's even another example where somebody who's, there's some guy called Dissident Science, I think it is. Anyway, and, so he's just sort of defending the truther types, the community of cranks who say the fix is in or something. And it's really disgusting to be part of that group, in the sense of being a dissident, somebody who doesn't go with the mainstream bullshit, just because the anti-crowd is just twice as crazy. And so this guy seems reasonable enough, like a little bit of a con artist, but yeah, okay. He's most of the stuff he says is reasonable. And then he starts making a defense of religion, like somehow science is a bigger liar than religions are, a bigger danger. It's like, no, man, how can you get that one wrong? God, it's just, the damage that this false hope does to the human brain is incalculable in terms of it's the cause of all the mess, really. If we had to seriously look at life and take it for what it really is, a bunch of consumption at the expense of non-volunteers to be victims, it's just sadistic and cruel to say, yes, make some more of that, make some more victims so I can watch them get eaten alive and such. I've been over these arguments, but it's just little things you can do with your brain, in terms of your imagination. And you can just pose a question, and it seems like a harmless little question, but you just pose the question, I wonder how many rodents right now, right this hour, are meeting their last breath, so to speak, in all kinds of insidious ways, like half caught in a rat trap, just two of their legs crawling and struggling, a glue trap. Just got to be horribly insidious, right? Just everything starts sticking in your, and you start ripping your own fur out. You start chewing your own little legs off. It's that bad. Every hour. Millions? Billions? Every hour. Just grind, 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 grind. And, you just pose a question like that and give it a little bit of thought. And you just, there's no way I can justify that. There's no way I would press the button to that individual rat and say, yes, I'm going to allow that to happen to you because I'm going to watch football later. And, that's the price I pay for being able to watch football is, millions of you have to get caught in glue traps. And I think that's a really great deal. Now, how could I do that? How can anybody, how can any human being defend it? How can, with what? To gratify a bunch of robotic, conditioned passions in your brain. And because you're born white, so to speak, or born horny for it, you assume it's great, it's the superior way to be. Just because of your own myopic view, because you just haven't seen anything else from any other perspective, because you have no imagination, apparently. But yeah, it's just for that, for the gratification of silly ambitions that have nothing to do with anything but some, program you've been manipulated by. You've been forced to play the game with a little simple trick. And you're too stupid to figure out you've been tricked by something so simple as a little desire mechanism. Has nothing to do with merit, has nothing to do with reasoning, has nothing to do with logic. Everything that you think you're so great because you have this big brain, and you don't use any of it. And that's what, most human beings are kind of deplorable in that sense, especially the religious kooks who, take credit for how magnificent human beings are when they don't do any of the magnificent part. When they're not really responsible for anything but creating more squalor and poverty to have to fix, but they don't do any of the fixing. They just do more of the, let's fertilize it and see if we can make more of it. More of a tragedy next time, so we can look like more of a hero when we show up and do almost absolutely nothing of any value. It just... yuck. So there's just nothing good to say about anything going on, and there's nobody to talk to. Everybody's an idiot. Speaking of which, Piro, his videos are almost unwatchable. Just this gooey. Let's fight disasters, not wars. Let's fight disasters by not making them, retard. Oh, fuck. They're so stupid. So, but you just see it in the comments. Most of them are they're just almost irrational. You can barely see that there's some sort of point being made. And then people can't even make points anymore in articulate sentences. They have to just use symbols and, some other kind of wishy-washy mush to make a point. They can't even say it in words, in some sort of accurate description. And so I'm just sitting here saying, oof. And then you see the crap that people do watch, the crap videos, the fluff, the mush. I think Thunderfoot's got almost 1 million subscribers or something. for making what? For videos ragging on women and debunking, insanely stupid science. Not even challenging something, the least bit not completely idiotic. Like almost any competent, and anyone who took a few years of, even in high school, of physics and chemistry could debunk. But anyway, no point in lamenting. I have to do something about it. And but what to do is the question. It does startle you just, like I said, to think that, to see what people gravitate to and try to figure out, well, what exactly is the substance in this mush, and whether it's all just a hype engine. Once the hype starts, it just rolls, and it's just this viral kind of thing. Because one guy says great, 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 and all the everybody else great, 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 great. And it's not great, great, great. Something like that. But you definitely have to get somehow rolling, in that hype engine. The popularity breeds popularity, kind of Google philosophy of what's relevant. Somebody said it is. So just because somebody said it, somebody else has to say it, and somebody else says it, something like that. Twitter kind of, the whole world we live in is just so non-merit based. But anyway, that's a separate lament. It's probably all related. I mean, it's not so much making arguments. The arguments aren't that complicated about nature being brutal, that our structure is mechanical and not in any way brilliantly creative. It's all kind of ego-driven, ambition-driven. Even the people who do great things usually do it, for themselves. Chasing the medals, whatever side they go on. The badges. And, it's all so crass. It's too tacky. And there's no rational arguments, And then, the part I've argued this whole thing that the smart people have to do something about it, and they just seem totally disinterested in doing anything but chasing their little ambitions, and no sense of, they're not smart enough to get the social responsibility part. And you see that a lot with people who've had kids, and they're a little bit older now, and they should be able to reflect on the experience and recognize it was a mistake of youth, and yet they don't say that. They don't live the hard reality, see the dysfunction, see maybe even the death, and they still can't utter the words, because they, again, it's like seeing a flaw in your favorite baseball team or something, or a flaw in your hero character. You find out he's not such a hero. It's like Einstein. He's kind of a lousy person in a lot of respects. Treated women very poorly. And, nobody would want to believe that, somebody's an Einstein supporter. I didn't want to believe it, you kept trying to find excuses, and then, like I said, until you start reading the actual documents he wrote, where he's, just a vile piece of shit, and you say, yeah, there's no humanity in this creep. He can talk it, but he doesn't have it inside of him. And yeah, it's disappointing. So I understand that, but I don't understand allowing that disappointment and to pretend, when it's just going to be, your only potential is to falsely, allow somebody else to fall into the trap by not saying anything about the trap, because it's a marginal thing. So it's like you own stock in it, I guess. Is so you have a kind of stock in it, in the sense that you're sort of invested vicariously in this fake thing, and somehow you don't want it known that the stock is really a piece of shit, because you don't want people selling. You don't want to destroy or harm this image of life, and you're somehow being a winner in it because you overcame, and somehow that's worth the price your victims paid. All the victims paid. And yeah, so Yeah, because it's just the message seems so clear. I've been saying for the last couple of years, it's just evolution, stupid. Because if you really look at evolution and the consequences of it, it controls our whole psychology. And I don't mean just I don't mean we're genetic organisms in the sense that most of our behavior isn't pre-programmed, but I just mean most of the motivations for behavior is. And that's the corruption. Because we'll find any excuse to eat the meal that we're hungry for. So we'll rationalize excuses to, they don't feel anything, they're just dumb animals, some sort of bullshit. Just come up with some bullshit to justify the bad habits, most of them, that our nature has let us slide into. But yeah, it's just so simple. There's nothing in the system that has any intent or intelligence. It can't form a good idea or a good plan. So that's why it doesn't have one. And that's why we end up in an insane living out a realistically a Freddy's nightmare, lifeboat kind of scenario. And people are just so used to being on the lifeboat that they're somehow having fun, throwing people overboard, and watching the redundant process of destruction, and harm and brutality and just gross, tragic horror. Tumor pushing your eye out of your head kind of crap. It happens in the real world every day. And people just keep making excuses. It's sigh-worthy, that people are this stupid. It really is stupid or insane, I don't know if there's really a difference, right? Stupidity will make you functionally insane, in the sense that there'll be no continuity to reasoning and, logic and proper mixing of facts. So the two things are essentially the same thing. So it doesn't matter whether you're stupid or you're insane. The truth is you're a menace, and the truth is I still haven't found the mechanism for writing that, or finding the right symbol or the right silly behavior or mannerisms or whatever it is. Maybe if I gain a couple £100, I don't know, to make it so you can understand what I'm saying, and the same way you would understand it if somebody else said it. Yeah. That's just this argument about being a messenger and trying to do justice to the message, and it's a challenge that I'm not succeeding at, but no one else is. So far, it's I guess part of it is people just don't want to hear it. And I sort of understand that, but I sort of don't, just because I just, obviously from my life experience, I guess I was never totally convinced this was a safe planet. That it was all good, as the phrase goes, right? Nobody would have said that back in my day, anyway. I mean, no, who would say all good? Nothing was ever all good. But that's the mentality you're fighting. It's just this, it can be horribly bad, and it's still going to be all good to people who have just no standards, because they're just in the game, and that's all they know is the gambling game. It's like they're at the casino, and they're just pulling levers, and they're just not thinking about, oh yeah, I've mortgaged my house, my brother's house, my neighbor's house. I have just ruined everyone, and there's no capacity to even understand that in any sense. And that's how most people are living their lives. They're just pulling the lever. It's addiction. Feed me. I need comfort. I need love. I need. And so they keep asking the machine to give. And they're too stupid to understand that's not what these machines are in the business of. That's not the way life works. You're not going to win. You're going to lose in the end. And maybe spectacularly badly. I mean, spectacularly bad. And, I mean, it whittles them all down. John Wayne, much smaller man at the end. Charlton Heston, you lay down the lists. Life beat the shit out of them. They didn't win. So, anyway, just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying. So anyway, so I gotta. I'm working on it. That's all. I'll just say that. I'm working on it. So yeah, it's a simple message, like grammar school kind of thing. And if it was actually taught in grammar school, if kids were actually given this spiel that, look, there's an alternative theory to your silly parents are telling you about how this is some kind of purpose and you're an expression of their love and all that other lies and bullshit. There's this alternative explanation, which is you're just part of a system, okay, that just grinds stuff up based on a replicating DNA molecule and a silly competition for some notion of temporary ownership of the hill that you can be king of until you get knocked down and mud is shoved in your mouth. And some new asshole sits on top for a day and then he gets mud shoved down his throat. It's just a silly war that never ends, and everybody ends up with a knife in their nuts. It doesn't do anything else. It's just a meat grinder with lipstick on it. People think it gives good blowjobs. That's not what's going to happen. Yeah, it's not what's going to happen. And it's not what is happening is an important thing. But see, everybody has this whole optimism bias. They all think they're going to, hey, I'm lucky. Or, I'm special, so that won't happen to me. They all think they're immune. And it's that sense of immunity that makes people so reckless, especially when they're young, and they suddenly end up having all these kids because nobody tells them, hey, guess what? You're not immune. You're not special. These are real odds. And guess what? Yeah, okay, it's 1 in 100,000 odds of this, and 1 in 90,000 odds of that, and 1 in 10,000 odds of that. Yeah, but you add up all of those lotteries, okay, you're entered in a ton of fail lotteries. A ton of them. Thousands of them. And yes, they have, sometimes it seems like, well, it's really, you really have to be unlucky to get ALS. Well, you sort of do. But there's a whole lot of different kinds of ALSs, so to speak. And you're entered in all of those lotteries. And the odds are like 50-50 you're going to win one. And those are statistical truths. I mean, it's by the time you're 50 years old in America, there's a 50% chance you have a significant disability. That's the reality. So why this sense of purpose or function? And, keep throwing people into that jeopardy and somehow making that anything else but an act of cruelty, of gross selfishness, disgusting exploitation, using somebody else for a love you're looking for, forcing something to love you. I mean, it's just gross. No, anyway. I can go on and on like I have before, ramble, ramble, blah, blah, blah. And obviously this just saying it isn't good enough. I have to make the movie or the documentary or the something to say it in a better way. And it's just the way it is. You know, it's sort of like with art. You know, you can paint something and you can say, hey, it looks okay to me, but it doesn't say anything to anybody else. And so you really have to try to say it in a way that says as much as possible to as many as possible. And that's not what I'm doing. So I have to do that better. I don't know if I can do it from this position because I'm already got a reputation and all that shit. So that's why I'm thinking it has to be in some way sterile from me. You know, some other form besides this fucker saying it. It has to be some other message carrier mechanism. So, but like I said, I think that can be done with graphics and art and whatnot. But we'll see. Maybe it can't. Maybe, yeah, well, sure, everything, you know, the theoretical possibility exists. Being able to convert that into a practical, real event in the real universe is the tricky part. And I'll say I'm doing the minimum, which is I'm thinking about it. I mean, it is on my mind, and I do ponder it. When I could be pondering something else, I'm pondering that. So it's not like I'm paying no attention to this obligation. And knowing something does create an obligation. I mean, you know, all those little rats are depending on me. You know, the future the future rats in the glue trap, they're depending on me to make sure that doesn't really happen. It's kind of like the Terminator movies, you know, where we're at the point where we can prevent, you know, the creation of the nuclear bombs and the whole thing happen. We can prevent it all. You know, just the way it is. If we can see it ahead of time, you know, we can prevent it, and it's so easy to see. And so yeah, it's an obligation. Once you see the bad, you're going to have a little bit of a passion to do something about it. If you're not a psychotic, sadistic, self-obsessed psychopath. Yeah. That means, you know, if you have any kind of rational mechanism inside of you that says you can't ignore the future and have anything called integrity. You can't really exploit something and pretend you didn't. You can't rape the woman and then say, you know, it was, you know, consensual. You can, but I just mean you can't if something like you lose all your integrity points. You know, so whether I guess that just doesn't matter to people. I'm trying to find some way, some animal, you know, where they just can't, you know, they have to have a, you know, they're fair fighters, so to speak. They, you know, they sit there and they, you know, integrity matters. They don't have a false sense of entitlement because they earn it. And it means something. But it doesn't mean anything to most people. So, anyway, okay, probably enough. So, working on it. See what happens. Wait and see. That's all I can suggest. I'll either do something brilliant or I won't. I wouldn't bet against me. But, you know, I wouldn't bet the house on me either. So, yeah. So, either way it turns out. Either way it turns out. Sorry. Yeah. You know, either way, there's no good stories. It's all, you know, even in success, you're going to lament how horribly long it took, you know, and all the unnecessary pain that had to be endured because the human mechanism, you know, couldn't get this ball rolling so much sooner. And it's always been right in their face. Again, it's just not that complicated. I mean, once you take this silly religion crap out, you're just left with this horrid mechanical system of evolution that doesn't have a single meritorious feature. It just creates brutal monsters. And just because we're not doing our monstering as overtly as a praying mantis, like we just don't grab something and start eating its guts out, we have somebody else do it in some hidden place, you know, where nobody has to see it. But it's the same thing. Our exploitation of the Chinese, all of the stuff we're doing, all the other animal organisms, we know they exist, but we don't show them, we don't honor them, we don't put the rat in the glue trap on the money. We don't do anything to recognize that's what we're doing, what we're killing, and what we're brutalizing, and what we're harming. We don't take any account for any of it, but we're doing it. We just made it pretty, you know. So we just pose like we're decent, because we really don't show the indecency of the torture and the slaughter that's on the plate with a little pretty garnish, you know. But it's the same monster. So yeah, yeah. Stop being a praying mantis, fuckheads. Anyway, till next time.